Hello guys, I'm here today to talk to you about the development of my website. I have spent a lot of time over the last couple of weeks to enhance my website and I wanted to show you what I've done. I've used the help of a couple of tools like ChatGPT, Cursor, GitHub Copilot, and I wanted to show you how you can update your website if you want to using the AI tools. So first, let's look at the website which I had originally. So this was the website which I had originally. It had a navigation bar section, it had a drop down menu, and if I look at the um, mobile view, then you can see that the nav bar is displayed like this. It's a drop down, and if I click it, then it should be able to show me the drop down things. And if I now get out of the mobile view, I see that I can now see my website in a browser mode. So this is essentially how my website used to look um, before I have updated it. So I'll just quickly show you what it is. It had a about me section, it had a podcast section, a skill section, languages, etc. And over a period of time, I've added various sections. It had a work section as well. So I'm using the web archive. So basically, my current website is already up to date. So I'm just using the web archive to retrieve the old website, so I can show you uh, what I built during the pandemic, and then what I've updated it to recently. So as you can see, this was the experience. It talked about my experience at the companies. Uh, you could download the resume. I had some skills, etc. It's still loading, so it'll take some time. And then certain projects, and then the footer. So all these things is fine. And then I had the various sections for education, speaking, media, tools, etc. And let me just show you my current website. So my current website is still having the same things, but I've modified it a bit. So as you can see, the nav bar has changed. I've moved all the buttons here and I've kept this amitsarkar.tech, which will navigate to the home page. So every time you click on it, it will take you back to this home page. And then I've added a hero section. So this is basically an image that I've downloaded royalty free from Unsplash. And then I've added a text here, and then if you click on view my work, it'll take you to the work page. Also added a button here which is scroll to the top. So if I click this, it'll scroll to the top, and then I've added the about me section with professional and personal experience separated. As you can see, it has a hover effect, so it shows you what information you're currently looking at. It has a podcast section, so you can actually see all the podcasts, but I've added a preview as well, so you can see how many episodes we have recorded, and if you want to listen to a particular episode, you can scroll to it and you can listen to it. Apart from that, I have a newsletter section, so if you enter your email, you can subscribe to it, and if you click here, it'll take you to the existing newsletters that I've already published. So let's look at it. So these are all the newsletters I've published, and then the languages which I speak, and some of the other areas where you can find me online, like for on Parkrun if you want to play a game of chess with me, what games do I play on Steam, and my reading list. And if you want to support my content, then you can just buy me a coffee, and you can give me whatever you feel like in terms of monetary stuff. And then we have the footer here, and the old website used W3 CSS, so it was open source CSS. It was a good styling, but it was functional, but it's not very professional, and it didn't look very what do you say very modern. So then I have moved to Tailwind CSS. It built modern websites without ever leaving your HTML. And the best thing is it's again open source, so you don't have to pay any money. You can quickly use it. So let's come back to the website. So now let's go to the top and then look at the work. So earlier I used to have a graph which used to show the work, but what I've done now is I've created a JavaScript that calculates how many days I've spent in that particular company. This is basically useful for recruiters who want to come to my website and who want to see how many years I've worked at a company, or for any people. And then you can see what are the other companies, and every time you scroll over a company, it basically highlights that section so you can focus on it. And then this basically scrolls through everything, and then you can download my latest CV, and then some of the skills that I've acquired over the couple of years I've worked in the industry, and then the footer section. Then we go to projects. So these are some of the things that I've worked on. So like for example, AI Nexus project, which I've worked on recently. Again, I've used AI. Charlotte Charles Beauty. I developed this website for a local business. Food Gully, something I created with my friends. My podcast, my newsletter, and then I created a AI influencer on for Instagram. And then I've created some other websites which you can find on my projects page. Then let's come to media. So these are all the sections where I have talked about a certain thing on the internet, and it is available now on the YouTube channel. So you can read the description, you can watch the video, and you can share it with people you like. And then the education section. So again, it's again very simple. It talks about where I've got my degree, what certifications do I have, and where I've gone for my schooling in India. And then we come to the tools section. So what are the tools I like to use? So currently this video is being recorded by OBS Studio. I really like it. And then I use various other tools on a regular basis. And then let's look at the event section. So this is basically the events I've participated, and these are basically sports events. So you can look at whether it's a cycling event, a swimming event, or a running event, and then you can see which country I participated that in, which year, and what was my time. So say for example, the last event I participated was the Tata Steel World 25K. It was a running event. I participated in India in 2024, and my time was 2 hours 23 minutes and 35 seconds. Then let's go to the travel section. So in the travel section, you can basically see what other countries I've visited, and then you can see it split across various continents. So like in Europe, I visited 13 countries. In Asia, I visited 3. Africa, I visited 2. South America, 7. And North America, 2 countries. There should be a map that is visible here, but I think it's currently not shown here. Go to travel section. Okay, so I'm getting the same error. I'm not able to load the map here. There is some issue with the CDN. So maybe we'll fix it in real time and see if it works. So that's the other thing. And then we look at the chat section. The chat section basically is a chatbot that I've recently created. It basically is using Olama with Gemma 3 model and a Chroma DB where all the information is stored, and using a fast API to basically talk to the backend. So let's see what is his notice period. Okay, so I've asked a question. It will take about 20 seconds. It's a bit slow because it's running on a CPU instead of a GPU. So it's not very fast, but hopefully you should see that it did give a response, and there are 3 colors: system color, the user color, and the LLM color. So you can see the chat difference, and this is really good. And then I can scroll on the top, and then I have the acknowledgement section where I am thanking people on on actually the tools that I've used to build this website. Like I've used Tailwind CSS. I'm hosting this on Netlify. I've used Font Awesome for all these beautiful fonts that you see at the bottom. I'm using Dynodot for the domain. So amitsarkar.tech is registered with Dynodot. And then I use Captivate as my podcast platform. I've used Google Charts, but I think I should remove it now. So maybe I can remove it, and then we'll see how it updates. Then I have a markup validation service. So basically, you can take your HTML and you can put it in this service, and it will tell you whether it's got all the right tags and it's readable or and even accessible. And then I've used the sitemaps to basically create a sitemap for my website. This is basically for Google. So if you go here, sitemap. So sitemap.txt. So basically, this will tell you all the pages that I have on my website, and this is basically used by Google search so that it can index these pages and keep a track of it and show you those results on its search results. So that's the sitemap. And then lastly, I've used the Lighthouse report. Basically, it's to see how quickly things are loading, the Search Console, and HTML color codes for selecting the color palette. The other thing I want to show you here is so let's go back to the website, the home page, and as you can see, if I click here, view my work, it'll take you to the work page. So basically, it's a pretty straightforward, and it looks good, and it has got all the relevant information that you want about me. Plus, I have a consistent UX, so it's very easy to navigate from one section to another section. If we look at the mobile option, so let's look at here. So I click it here. So in the mobile option, you can basically see how you want to um, what you can see, the way you can see things. So like education, so it'll load like this. And then if I go to say chat, this is how it'll look. And then you can type a question. Of course, this is is for a specific mobile. I'm currently using a responsive, but I can select a particular handset. So let's see iPhone 13 Pro. So I'm now selected iPhone 13 Pro, and this is how it will look on iPhone 13 Pro. And I can see the acknowledgement section and other things. So basically, this is how you can um, simulate how you want to view your website across different devices, different screen sizes, etc. And this is basically what we mean by responsive. So as you can see, the width and everything is adjusting automatically. I have not written any special code, but I have told uh, the HTML to like keep a track of everything, um, so that when it's in a specific mode, you show specific things in a specific order. As you can see, everything is wrapping properly. If you look at the footer, that also expands nicely. So yeah, and then the go to the top button also works very nicely. Basically, this is essentially my website. Now let's look at the code. So if you look at cursor, I've opened the code that I was talking to you about, and here you can see everything that I have. The structure is basically very simple. You start with the index.html, so that's the home page. Um, if you look at the home page at the top, I have basically in the header, I mentioned the title of the page. I've mentioned what character set you have to use. I've given a who's the author, what's the description, and what are the keywords. These are basically used by Google search. So if they scan this HTML, they can basically using certain keywords, they can say that okay, for this keyword, give this website as an output. So it's really helpful. And then this is the image that I've used. So basically, when you share something, this is the image that you will see. Say when you share my image, my URL on WhatsApp, you will see this image. And then what are the different style sheets that I've used? So basically these are basically styling. So I've used Tailwind, I've used the Roboto font, and then I've applied some specific styling for um, specific objects that look and feel different. And these styles I have again asked ChatGPT. So if you look here, CSS, and if you look at the style, so it shows the like how if I want to make a video responsive, how do I do it? I want to show this map, the tool card hover, so the hover effect, the navigation bar, the chat container, how should the chat messages look, and how should the messages go from user and assistant, what they should look like, the chat input box, and the buttons, etc. And then if there is a loading indicator, how it should look like, and then responsive. So basically you can see that there's a lot of styling that I've applied, but it's global, so I just call it here using this line, and I don't have to define it for every page. I just use this simple line, and then it's a favicon. So basically, when you go to my website, you will see this image. So that's called a favicon image. So most websites will have this. So in case I wanted to show something else, I can change it, and that's defined by the favicon. And then I have some external scripts. So these are JavaScripts. So like I'll call my chat script, my normal scripts, and the font awesome that will render the footer. So when I say the scripts, they are located in a JavaScript folder. Script.js will have the navigation menu toggle. So how do you change the toggle? And then ensuring that the chat page loads at the top, calculate the duration of the jobs. So basically, I just call it once. I don't have to call it to for a specific page, etc. And it should work. So every time I call it, it'll work. I don't have to load it for this page because there is no chat functionality here. So maybe I don't need it. But this is again there. In case I decide to move the chat here, I can still use it. And then these are some meta tags and some Twitter card tags. So basically this is this will decide how the website should look on WhatsApp or Facebook or Instagram whenever it's shared, and this is how it should look like when it's shared on Twitter. So basically this is how it decides, and then of course you have the structure, everything is in place. So this is the navigation bar. I start the nav bar, and then I have a separate nav bar for the mobile, and it will tell you when to show this, and it is based on the screen width. So when the screen width of a certain size, it will show this navigation bar, and then I end the navigation bar. The reason I've done this is because the navigation bar is consistent across all the HTML pages, but if I want to change one thing, I'll have to then manually change it across multiple pages. So what I've done is I've created a Python script that will update the nav bar for all the pages, and it will also update the footer for all the pages. I just write the code here, and if I update it here and run the script, it will update it on all the HTML pages in this folder, and the same goes for the footer. So whatever you see at the bottom here, that's called a footer. So this footer, so if I change something on this page, I want it to reflect on all pages. The way I do it is I have a footer.txt file. So if I change anything here and run the script, it will update the navigation bar and it will update the footer all in one go. So I can make changes to both the files and then run this Python script, and it will make the changes. I do have a README file, and you can look at the preview. So it will tell you what is the production website, what's the development website, what is the repo structure looking like, what are the different pages, features, technologies used, uh, related repositories. So this is basically the backend repository, and I'll show you that in a bit. And then the navigation and footer section, how I've used the Python script, and then basically credits. This is similar to what I have in the websites. And then there are different websites. Now, if you look at the travel section, there was an issue here. So let's just close this, readme, and then I'll just look at the travel section. So if you see here, I have the leaflet.css, the style sheets, and I'm calling this leaflet.js external scripts, but I'm not calling the map here. So if you look the map section here, openstreetmap.org.png, right? So I'm not calling this um, function. So let's select this and then uh, ask cursor to fix it. So it's saying I'm saying it that we have to fix it. Here S stands for something. It seems like it's a variable, but we haven't defined it anywhere, or maybe I have changed it or removed it accidentally. I don't know. So I'll just ask chat. I'll ask cursor to fix this. So I'll select the code. So I've started from the script tag and finished it here, and then I'll say Control K, and then I will ask it, this map is not getting displayed on the HTML page when it loads, fix it. add any relevant external JS that needs to be loaded to display this. Keep the contents and styling. Keep the original contents and styling. So basically it should not modify the contents, and then I'll say submit edit, and now it'll analyze this. It's basically analyze this whole thing, and then it'll start making changes. So let's wait. It's using GPT-4o model. I can change here the different model, and maybe I'll just cancel it, and I will no, I don't want this. I've already defined it. So if you look at this ID map, it should be defined in the CSS. So if I look here, map dot ID map, hashtag map. So I've already defined it here, so I don't need to define it again in that page. So I'll reject it, and it'll automatically disappear. And then I'll say, okay, use Cloud 3.7 Sonnet. And this is a very, very good model for coding. So let's see what it does. So it's basically told me that you need to modify it like this. But let's look at the changed code and the original code and new code, and then we'll see if we need to just change it somewhere or just fixing it. Making some short fixes will help us. So let's see. So basically, this is the red is basically the code it has deleted, and the green is the code that it has added. So it's added map style this. We don't need it. So let's ignore it. And then I have added a script function init map, and then I am loading this map. And here it's calling the style sheet unpackaged leaflet at 194 leaflet.css. Okay. Now if you, and it's calling leaflet.js 194. Now if you look at this page, we are already calling leaflet.css and we are calling leaflet.js. But if you see, the versions are missing, and I think that's the problem. So if we copy this, okay, leaflet.js, control C, and then we change it here, control V, and then we have to add the CSS here. So let's say we add it control leaflet.css here, control C. Okay, so now what I've done is I have updated the version number, so it should basically pick up this CSS and this JavaScript. Earlier the version number was not defined, and we can go to say index.html to see if we have this JavaScript. So we don't have this JavaScript on any other pages because it's not needed, and not even the CSS, right? So we go here, so we fixed that, and I'm guessing that should be the only thing, and then we have the function. So let's look at what it has added. So we don't need this section. We can basically kill it. Uh, we don't need the div, we don't need the CSS, we don't need the script. And then in the function, zxyz png, and I think it's the same, set view 2002, and here it says set view 2002. It has got the latitude, longitude, DOM content loaded, init map, and here also it has got DOM window.onload init map. So it's basically when the window loads, it initializes the map function, but here it says add execute when DOM is fully loaded. So when the document object model is fully loaded, it will initialize the map. Let's reject it. Okay, I don't think we need it. I'll close it because I think I've now fixed the whole thing. So let's save it, control S, and then Let's check it in. So I'll say updated CSS and JS scripts for map commit, and then I push it. So this will get updated to GitHub, and once it gets updated to GitHub, it will pick it up, and then we can see if it's working correctly or not. So how do we verify? So let's go to this page. Let's go to scroll to the top. Let's click on travel. One of the things we can do is we can look at the source. So press Ctrl U and we'll look at the source. So once we see the version changing here, if it changes to um, something with a version, then it means that it has worked and it will be correct and it has updated. So currently it's still the same, it's not updated. It'll take some time, and once it's done, then maybe we should be able to see the map properly. So let's see what happens. Still waiting for this line to get updated and this line to get updated with the version number. Okay. Version number is not changed. Maybe it's taking some time. Some time again. Has it done the commit? Okay, I think it has done the commit. So if you look at the source control graph, it said yes, it's updated the CSS onto the master. 2 insertions, 2 deletions. So it's updated 1 minute ago. So ideally we should be seeing the update here. So yeah, so now the version has come. So let's reload this page. Okay, so the map is still not fixed. Maybe I'll fix it later. I don't want to bore you guys, but basically you can see that once I checked in the code, it got updated, and hopefully it should display the map, but it is not currently displaying it, and I will figure it out and make sure that it is working correctly. So basically, this is a taste of the cursor where I have talked about how the pages work, and you can see that how everything is connected and everything is working. Git ignore is basically telling it to ignore certain files where it doesn't upload to GitHub, and then these are the assets where I've kept the CV, where I've kept my images, etc., which you can see on the page. So basically, and this Google verification is basically telling Google that this is my website, and I should and it is a website for my domain, and if I have this in my domain, then Google knows that this domain has been verified by the user and it can now start indexing it. Um, and then we have the license page where I say use MIT license, copyright, etc. So yeah, so that's the front end, and then let's look at the back end. So in the back end, what I've done is I have created a so let's start with the scratch. So basically for the backend, this backend is basically for the chatbot. So for the chatbot, what I've done is I've taken the markdown of all my pages which I have online. So I've basically taken the HTML page of amitsarkar.tech and I've given the URL source and I've told it about everything and then I've converted into markdown. Then using this script, I convert the markdown into an embedding and store it in a ChromaDB, which is a vector database. So I use this embedding model, which is an open source embedding model. Embedding means converting text into numbers. Uh, these numbers have meaning, they have relationships. Only AI models understand this. We, as scientists or as engineers or as human beings, still don't understand the connection and how they form this connection, but that is normally how it works. Um, and we are telling it to use a database called ChromaDB, and we are asking it to make sure that it's with the correct parameter, and then we are calling the embedding function. We create the embedding function, we check the markdown files, we do a clean and normalized text, we convert markdown to plain text, we then chunk the text into small sizes, and then we split text into sentences using regex, and then once the chunking is done, we process all the markdown files and add it to the ChromaDB, and then function to retrieve relevant documents from ChromaDB. So how would you retrieve? So basically this defines it. So if someone queries the database, they will look at this function and they can then query the database and function to generate a response using Olama. So Olama is basically a tool which you can use for free to download open source models. So if you go here, Olama, and you come here, so get up and running with large language models, but bear in mind these are all open source. So Llama, Gemma, DeepSeek, these are all open source models. 5.4 is from Microsoft. Mistral is a French LLM. So you can click on the model and then it has basically different parameters. I'm using the 1 billion parameter. So if you click on Gemma and select the 1 billion parameter, you can basically use this command on your machine once you have installed Llama on your machine, and then you can run this command and it will download the um, um, model for you. So I will say Olama list, and it has listed these models. As you can see, Gemma 3 1 billion is about 815 MB. Now, if I want to run this model on a machine on the cloud, it's actually quite small compared to say the 27 billion model, uh, which is 17 GB. And if you look at the 4 billion model, it's about 3.3 GB. So depending upon the number of parameters, the model size changes. But because I have my own data, I can keep the model size very small and concise, and I don't need a very large model, and I can use something with 1 billion parameter or something maybe even smaller. And because Gemma 3 has just been launched by Google, I thought let's just use the latest one. It's still a big file, but it's small enough to run on a CPU, which will give you a response within 20 seconds, as I showed you on my website on the chat section. So that's how you run Olama. Um, and so this script will generate the database from these markdown files. Okay, ignore VNV, ignore git ignore. Then I created a server. So this server will start the server. So it means that whenever it receives a request, it will go to the ChromaDB. It will fetch the data based on the user query, and then it will give a response. So I can tell it, okay, this is how you should behave. Um, this is some of the context I'm giving for every question. This is the model I'm using. This is the temperature, the top P number, repeat penalty, streaming is true. So basically, these are all the things that you can use in the when you're defining the model. And these are basically the parameters to tweak it and how the model responds to your queries. So once this server is ready, the way to deploy this backend is I go to a machine and then I have these deployment steps. So I have all my deployment steps here. So I say I'll SSH here, I'll upgrade all the packages, I'll clone this backend, I'll start the Docker Composer, I'll delete any images or containers. I'll check for any exited containers which are currently not running. I'll remove an existing image because I want to build everything from scratch without occupying any without occupying any extra space on the cloud, um, you can say hard drive. Then I start the Docker Compose. So the Docker Compose will use the Docker file, and the Docker file will basically tell it what to do. So it'll download Python, it will assign a work directory, it will update um, the the what do you say, the Linux image. It will run the Olama install script and it will download this Olama version because this is the version 060 that supports Gemma 3. This is the latest version that supports Gemma 3. And then you install and upgrade the pip, and there is a requirements file. So these are basically all the dependencies. So in order for my model to run on my cloud server, it needs to install all these files with specific versions. The reason I've said specific version is so that it doesn't waste time in identifying which versions are compatible with which version, and that means I can install things very quickly. if I specify specific versions. Then if you look at the Docker file again, I set up the firewall, I set up my nginx server, then I create a Cloudflare tunnel. So basically I'm creating this tunnel so that um, my my chat page can talk to this API. And this API is not defined on my page, on my front end. So I have to define it in the back end. So basically, whenever a request is sent, it will go via Cloudflare to this server using this Cloudflare tunnel. And Cloudflare will manage all that. So I send the request from my front end via the API to the back end through a Cloudflare tunnel. Basically, this is how it's working. And I didn't figure this out. I asked ChatGPT and it gave me a lot of suggestions, and this was the best solution for my use case. And then I defined everything, and I created a DNS record, and then I installed the service. I started the service, and then this is how I test on my machine whether it's working or not. And then I deploy the front end, and that's about it. So if you look at the front end, I just define this. So whenever it's making a call, it will send it to this URL. So it will take the user query, it will send it to this URL. That's all you need to know. Because if you look at the chat HTML page, you can't see, scroll to top. So here you can see it's ask questions about Amit Sarkar, his work and projects, header class, chat section, hello, I'm an AI assistant, and there is nothing else here. Okay, so everything is being handled by the script. And the way it is being handled by the script is using this send button ID. So in the script, there should be something that tells it to handle this. So let's look at the style. So send button will have a style, I think. No, it doesn't have a style. I think chat input button. So that button is there. If you hover over the button, it will show a particular color and disabled. So let's go to the website. If I go to chat, then if I hover, you see the color changes. So this is how it's defined. So yeah, so that's the backend. And once everything is done, I set up everything, and then there are some other things that I've added. So Docker Compose will run the Docker file. It'll assign the CPUs, it'll assign the memories, it'll assign the reservations. Like this is the minimum, this is the maximum. You cannot go below this, you cannot go above this. And then which are the domains which are allowed, cross allowed origins. So only these origins are allowed for that particular API, no other origins. So yeah, so essentially this is how I have built the backend. Um, Hopefully you have enjoyed watching this video. I know it's a quite a detailed and technical one, but this is how I have used um, ChatGPT, Cursor, Visual Studio Code, GitHub, etc. for my website. Basically, what I did is I asked ChatGPT for certain things like, okay, what should the content be? What should I think about? How should I design it? What should I use? Then I go to Cursor. I ask it to generate the code. I've used Cursor in agent mode using Claude 3.7 Sonnet. That's the best model for coding right now, and I'm paying for the Cursor subscription, $20 per month, because I think using that is just a game changer. It creates all the documentation for me, so in case I forget certain commands, I can ask it to edit it in the documentation so I can refer it in the future. My GitHub repos are all private, but in case anyone needs access, I can give the access to them, and they can replicate everything what I've done in order to launch this website. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope to see you again. Bye. So let's go to Chrome. I will open this.